Hey, Jocelyn, Tom, Pamela, hello. Good to have you guys. Hey, sorry that I had to postpone the meeting. I I got stuck with something. Um, I have this sofa at our house, and it's a fake leather I bought 10 years ago. But all the stuff is coming out, and I have a 9 month old baby at the house, and she's going and picking up that stuff and like eating. So today I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna throw the couch away. So we went, and I arrived 5 minutes after they closed. So then I drove to the next city, and then they gave out this card to for us to keep track of. And then we lost the card, so we've been looking for that card, and then we had to wait for everyone else to get out, and then we finally paid, drove back. And I mean, it was a kind of a fun adventure, but it took a lot longer than I had anticipated. So um, instead of me panicking, I said, oh, it's okay, I'll just tell the class I'm going to be a little bit late, and I think you guys will understand. So all right, Andrew, Howard, Condro, how are you guys doing? Yeah, I got 5 kids now. So it's a big change. So yeah, when I opened our second campus in Seattle, right? So I started the first dojo in Mountain View, and then the second one I opened it in Seattle because we had our third baby at the time, and she is now our third baby is 6 years old. So a lot of things have happened over the years. Um, yeah, some good memories. Yeah, so yeah, we went to the landfill, and it was me. I got this two big sofas, and I was like carrying it and then trying to throw, but they kind of put a rope. So then, I mean, I had to lift all the way like above my head by myself, but so I was trying to like squeeze the rope up and then like squeeze in the sofa. I threw it away, and then I think I accidentally kind of maybe threw away the card that they gave. So we went outside and we looked for the card. We couldn't find it. Maybe we threw it away. It was a fun adventure. I don't know whether we're actually supposed to be outside like that. They did let us in, but yeah, I just didn't want my kids going around, and she has all that like fake leather all over like her clothes, and it's just nasty. So I thought, okay, you know what? Let's go and let's take care of this. Um, Internet seems to be having issues again. Hopefully you can still hear my voice, but yeah, it's like yellow zone, red zone, and it's kind of going back up. Yeah, it is a big family. Yeah, it is a big family for sure. Yeah, like my family's good. Whenever I do these lectures, they're very good not to do anything on the internet. But I think maybe tomorrow I'll just reset the router because that seemed to have helped yesterday. I don't know if there's something happening on the background, but my kids have the TVs off and the computers off too. So it seems like it's back in the green zone now. Yeah. Yeah. Ellie, hi. Yeah, big family, 5 kids. We may have more. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. My son's name is Howard. So Howard Choi is like, yeah, that's my son's name too. So good to have you, Howard. Yeah, it might be Netflix, but it's back in the green zone now. I was thinking, because the group is small, maybe we will just do a Zoom meeting, but I don't have a paid account. So the free account only lets us, do it for 40 minutes. So, do you know what? Let's just do YouTube Live. I kind of got used to interacting through comments. So we'll just do that. And maybe, I mean, next week we can get together just informally and just say hi and stuff. Because I do want to get to know you guys a little bit more. And I think, even seeing your comments on Facebook and going through these on a live class, we build some relationships. So it would be nice if I can actually see you guys and kind of picture, who each of you is. But we'll plan on doing that sometime next week. I did get a lot of questions about bugs. So if you see bugs, you can just email me directly. And also, yeah, just email me directly. That's fine. Sometimes just make sure that those are real bugs. And if it is, maybe because it might be your code too. Maybe, there's something wrong with your code, and especially when you're doing things with some of the type conversion and recursion could be tricky. So if you pass like an integer where you're expecting a string, then you can have some, weird errors too. But anyway, if you see bugs, send them to my way, and I'll forward it to the team and have them take a look at it. As mentioned, you guys are the first one to go through the advanced algorithm module. So, I mean, I went through it, but we didn't really have anyone else. And I only went through it in JavaScript. I had one of my team members prepare the versions in Python. So it could be, in the translation process, some of the things may have not been translated correctly. I know when I added some of the JavaScript challenges, I added some additional test cases too. So, the guy that was translating my JavaScript into Python, I think he missed some of the test cases. So over the weekend, he double checked everything and made sure that was in there. So anyway, but I think it's about 98 to 99% correct. I like to believe, but there may be some bugs. So if you see them, send them my way, and we'll go from there. Yeah, Taesung, good to have you. Okay. When you are a teacher, you have lots of kids. Yeah, you guys are my kids too, I guess. Yeah, all my students, I feel like they're kind of an extension of me. And so, yeah, you guys are my kids. Some of you might be older than me, but, I mean, just, we exchange roles. All right, so should we get started? We have about 20 people. It seems like whenever we have this live class, like half of the people drop off. Um, I would like to believe it's not because of my teaching, but maybe I do need to improve on how I cover materials. All right, so let's see. Let me just look at the comments and see if there's anything here that needs my attention. Um, Oh, Nikandra, if you, yeah, maybe I'll, need help. I have a grand vision of Hacker Hero. Yeah, as I mentioned yesterday, Hacker Hero can support multiple programming languages. And I was thinking yesterday, do you know what? Should I have the team write a program to translate, any language from one to the other? That would be kind of a neat project, right? A program to create a program. Right? So I was thinking, oh, that might be actually be neat because as the fundamentals don't really change that much, right? It's a little bit tricky when you go from a dynamic language to a strongly typed language, where you have to declare a variable type and things like that. But even then, I mean, that's just an if statement. So I was thinking, oh, should I have the team do that? And then open up 10 additional languages that people can do the advanced algorithm? No, I was thinking, no, too much work, too distracting. I think JavaScript and Python is good enough for now. And then, later on we can add, multiple other languages. So we'll do that. But yeah, later on, maybe I will translate over to Spanish. My grand vision of Hacker Hero is I do want to make coding education more accessible around the world. Coding Dojo has been great, and I feel happy to be part of it. But there's always this side of me where I wanted to do more than what I was able to do at Coding Dojo. So Hacker Hero is kind of an extension of that, where I want to pass on some of these coding education to people everywhere in the world, especially those that may not be able to afford it, to get the quality education. So one of the way that I'm thinking, I share this with my other class, is a next upcoming feature of Hacker Hero is there's going to be a help desk. And there's going to be a little bit of gamification. So there's going to be a profile picture. I'll give you a sneak preview, just in writing, or just in drawing. The way that it's going to work is like imagine your profile. So it's going to show your profile avatar. I don't want Hacker Hero to show your real name or real image because I want you to feel safe, to make mistakes. I don't want, your hiring manager or your boss coming to Hacker Hero and be like, oh, why did it take you so long to solve this challenge? So I want it to be anonymous, safe place where you can learn, level up. But there's going to be a level. And then for each of the module, there's going to be a point system. So each challenge you solve is going to be a point, and each person you help is going to be a point. So you can find out from the Hacker Hero community who's number one, who's number two in terms of points. And again, the points are not just how many challenges you solved, but also how many people you helped. And when you help someone else, it's going to be a live chat support. So if you get stuck, you basically click a button and say, hey, I'm stuck. Is there anyone who can help me? And then a notification pops up. And then people can come in and engage in a chat. And after you chat with them, it will ask you, hey, how helpful was that person? And then if you say that person was super helpful, then the person who helped you is going to get that 1 point. And kind of rise through the leaderboard. Do you know what? Maybe I'll show you kind of how it works. So that's kind of the next extension of Hacker Hero. So let me just kind of show you. I mean, I feel like we're all friends and families here. This is kind of the next extension. Where is it? There's so many files. I don't think, is it this one? This is the style guide for Hacker Hero. Yeah, but I just love this. I've been working on it for a while. Okay, so here is so what you're seeing is 1.1, and the team is working on 1.1a and 1.e. That's going to be released in the next few weeks. 1.2 is going to be released a little bit later on, but you can just kind of giving you a sneak preview. Let me just show you. Like there's going to be a leaderboard. You guys see this? There's going to be a leaderboard and a help desk. And the leaderboard is going to show, oh, who are the top on basic algorithm, who are the top on advanced algorithm. You can see the country, the number of points, the username. You can also go to the help desk. And the help desk, let me see, where's the help desk? I like this. So the help desk is going to, where is the help desk? Oh, here it is. The help desk is going to show, okay, who's needing help right now. So this is real time. And, I mean, I share this not because I like Hacker Hero, I do like it, but also because we're talking about system design. So I think we can tie in some of the Hacker Hero stuff into the system design. But you can imagine that, people go to the help desk, and this is in real time. So people who need help right now, they show up. And if you did solve that challenge before, then you're able to offer help. If you didn't solve that challenge before, you can't offer help. Right? You first got to solve it yourself, and then you can offer help. These are people who are being helped, and these are people who got help. And you can find out who helped whom. And when you click on the profile, right, you can see, for example, each of your profile is going to look like this. It's going to show all the modules, how many points you earned. And there's only going to be certain point that you can achieve by solving challenges, right? In order to rise beyond that, the only way to level up is by helping other fellow Hacker Hero users, and you can kind of rise through the top. So that's kind of the next feature. A little bit of gamification, just recognizing people who are going out of the ways, and then when you help someone else, not only you get a point, but you also get a credit. So and the credit can be used in it, right now to unlock a video answer, as you guys know, but later you can use that credit to unlock new courses as well. So that's kind of the grand vision of Hacker Hero. And of course, if you already have a job and you're working and the company has a budget, then you can sign up for a subscription plan where every month you get points and you can use it to unlock courses and stuff like that. So that's kind of the next feature. I mean, there's some other things we are designing, but this kind of shows you some of the system design process that I take. I wireframe it, then I give it to my designers. They do it in Figma, and then I come up with a clickable prototype, and then I have the team build it. Yeah, these are some of the other features where we would have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript too, so that I can have JavaScript games, I can have HTML and CSS course here, and so all of this, most of this is actually already working right now, but I wanted some of these features built before we go and do help. So when they ask for help, like you click on it, and then it's just very simple. It pops up this chat box that you can talk to the person. So you talk to the person, and once you're done, then it basically tells you, it asks you, where is it? Yeah. It asks you, oh, how helpful was that person, and then so forth. Yeah, there are just a lot of pages, but that's kind of you will probably see that in about, if things go well, maybe 3 to 4 weeks from now, you will see this. And then right now, what the team is working on is making the site responsive. Right now, this is not responsive. It's kind of crappy. But the reason we did this is because I wanted to first validate that Hacker Hero could be a good learning tool. And as you guys know, making a site responsive from the very beginning takes up a lot of time. So I said, you know what? Don't worry about making the site responsive. Let's just make it for a fixed width. And then once we get some people and get some user feedback, and we are finding that people are liking it, they're learning, then let's devote more resources to make it better and better. So anyway, that's a little bit about Hacker Hero. Yeah, let me know if you have some comments too. If there are areas that you can help out. I would love to get you guys involved as part of this and um, and and do this. I do plan on launching some courses. A lot of these courses you guys already know, right? Basic stuff, for new coders. But you guys can come back and offer help. And I mean, the best way to learn again is by helping others, right? If you help someone solve 3 recursion problems, that type of problem you will never forget. And when you were asked that question during the interview, you will be able to do it so quickly because you verbalize what you have learned. So my vision was, let's create that community where people are helping each other. So okay, let me look at the comments and see if there's any questions or comments here, and then we'll go into the topics. All right, so um, yeah, 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 there are a lot of issues. Java, don't, yeah, Tianyu, Java, we kind of started translating and then we kind of stopped. I told the team, hey, don't worry about Java now. Let's just do JavaScript and Python. So if you do it in Java, you probably only see a few questions. So that's right. We need to, we haven't finished the advanced algorithm. So, so yeah, don't do it in Java. And let's see, don't take low attendance personal for summer Thursday's end of sprint day. Okay, appreciate that, Nikandra. It's always nice. Um, let's see, Samya. Okay, got it. Thank you, Samya. It's good to know that people are watching recording. Um, who is Taziki? I don't know, James. I love the idea of leveling. Okay, got it. Yeah, it's really nice that you guys are interacting with each other. It's you know teaching and interacting with graduates, it's nice. It's always nice, to see what you guys are doing and to especially see that you guys were able to make a career change, which is what a lot of you wanted when you came to Coding Dojo, and to see you guys doing so well in learning, it makes my heart feel really, really warm. Could you make an explanation solution video and JavaScript respectively? I think later on I will. It just takes me so much time. The JavaScript one, I probably, I mean, there are probably 20 to 30 hours of videos there, and it's completely draining. So yeah, I'm thinking, should I make it in Python? Um, yeah, and right now I'm kind of leaning against it. Uh, but I do have a cheat sheet that helps you go from one language to another very quickly. So I'll share that on Facebook so you can watch it and you can quickly translate what I'm doing in JavaScript to Python or Java or C# or PHP, just by looking at that cheat sheet. So I'll share that with you. Okay, so DS, I hope that will be good enough. But yeah, I just don't know if I have time to create all the answers in Python. But if you want to do it, after you finish it, maybe that's something you guys can volunteer. Create the answers in different languages. What a fun project. Is there a GitHub link for Hacker Hero where we can open issues? You know what? That's actually a good idea. Maybe I'll look into that, TJ. Where we can do that. Let me talk to the team. That's a great idea, TJ. Appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, Jocelyn, you're right. So the test cases is you can't write whether they're actually using recursions or not. It's just yeah. I mean, I can do some other things, but in the community section, you guys can all see how others solved it. So if the problem stated something, I mean, one quick way to bypass all the test cases, just write a bunch of if statements. If the argument is X, return this. Else if, right? So, but it's honor system. Everyone's here to learn. So I said, you know what? Let's not make it so complex. If it passes the test cases, that's good enough, and community will know if you cheated. or if you did it the legitimate way. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, grokking algorithms. Yeah, okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah, GitHub. Um, yeah, let me look into some of the GitHub repo integration tool. Yeah, there is just so many things out there, and I don't really use GitHub that much. My engineers use it, but now I'm mostly kind of managing. So let me look into them and see if we can incorporate some of the things that you guys are talking about. So hi Antonina. So okay, so I gave you a sneak preview of Hacker Hero. Originally, originally today I was gonna have us do system design of Hacker Hero, but I don't feel like it, so we're not gonna do it. And you can still do it and submit. But today what I feel like is, why don't we actually do some database design? Okay, or do system design that requires some good database design, because some of you commented how you wanted to get into database design as well. So why don't we do that? But before we do that, let me add a little bit of context and some stories around this. Okay, all right. And then while I'm sharing and while I'm getting this set up, um, yeah, if you have comments on Hacker Hero, the leaderboard, and kind of the gamification, let me know. I'd love to get feedback on whether you think something like that would be helpful, whether you would find Hacker Hero more engaging if there was live help that you can ask. There's also some Facebook integrations so that you can see if there's anyone in Facebook among your friends that can help if you get stuck. So there are some of that. But give me some feedback to if this is like something that you're not interested in at all, like you don't think this is going to add value for your learning, let me know as well, so that I can get your feedback. One of the reason I wanted to do this class is because I thought you guys would give me genuine feedback on Hacker Hero and what would make this better. So I'm leaning that you guys will be open with me and just share honestly how you feel about some of these things and how I can make it better for dojo graduates as well as people who want to learn to code and so forth. Okay, so I wanted to talk about before we go into the system design for Learn platform, right? All of you are familiar with our learning platform that you guys use back at the dojo. Okay, I'll give a little sneak preview for those who for I think we may have some people who aren't dojo graduates, so I'm gonna give a sneak preview of that. But before we do this, I wanted to give a little bit of context. Okay, so tomorrow we're gonna spend a little bit more time to talk about this, but OOP is a concept that's really, really important, isn't it? Right? It does come in data structures. It does come in when you do, model viewing controller. It was hard to really, really go into depth of OOP in the dojo when you just learned OOP like a week ago, and now you need to learn MVC from scratch in a single week. Right? So a lot of information there, but you got a good foundation, I believe, by learning a few different stacks and being exposed to it. Hopefully you realize that there is a common thread that connects all the different languages and programming frameworks. But I wanted to add a little bit more color into why I think OOP is not as important as it used to be, let's say 10 to 20 years ago. Right? I was actually thinking, okay, there's this design pattern called solid. There are a bunch of other design patterns that have to do with OOP. And I was thinking, okay, you know what? Actually, I mean, I never went through a computer science program myself. I'm self-taught. I took a few CS courses, when I was in college, but I just didn't feel a need. And, there hasn't been any application I couldn't build with what I knew. So I never got a formal training. Like, okay, what is solid? S stands for this. It's all kind of, it's just someone else's opinion, and some of it, felt intuitive. But I was thinking, why is it that there seems to be less focus on some of these OP design patterns than before? Do you guys have some ideas on that? Or do you and again, you may not notice, right? So let me just kind of share my perspective. And there may be many perspectives to this, but I think, one of the perspective why OOP design pattern is not as important as it used to be. And now the shift has been more shifted into database design, right? And also OOP design patterns too. But, before, if we say 10 to 15 years ago, or let's say, 20 years ago, OOP design patterns were super important. Now it's like important, but it's not so much, not super, super important. I would say it's OOP plus database design. It's really the combination of the two. And I was thinking, why is that the case? And I have a philosophy, I have an opinion about this, and I want to share that, right? If you're, a developer back 20 years ago, before web, what was the typical applications that you would build things in? You built a desktop application, right? You built a desktop application. So imagine, let's go back in time, 20, 30 years ago. Okay, 20 years ago, we still have the web, right? So, okay, let's go back 30 years ago. 30 years ago, there's no web, there's no internet. You're a software engineer, and you need to build an application. Okay, maybe 30 years ago, there was no Windows. Let's just say you had Windows, right? Okay, so let's say you did have Windows 95, and you need to build an application off of Windows 95. So let's say your task was to build something like Microsoft Office, or before MS Office, right? The Word or whatever, right? So you decide, okay, I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna have all these buttons, right? That do blah, 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 blah. And I'm gonna have this modal that does blah, 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 blah. And I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna have this UI and all of these things, right? So imagine if you're building this, would you actually go and build every single class that you need for the view, right? For what the client sees? Yeah, you would have to, right? So you would say, okay, so I'm gonna create a button, but I'm gonna create a class button that's generic. And I'm going to have it extend to rectangular button, and then circular button, and then, another button. And then there are different types of buttons, right? With different, functionalities. So then I have to go and, keep extending. There may be some things like buttons where I do want to have that class, but I don't want anyone to create an instance off of that class. So what do? I make that into an abstract class so that, people can actually create an instance of that, or I create what's called an interface. Interface is basically sets of rules that you expect certain class to follow. So if I want some of these to act certain way, like when I click, have the edge change a little bit, and then, have a pop-up, and, there's an X button, blah, 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 then I basically impose an interface and say, if you follow this interface, let us know that you're gonna follow that interface, but it needs to have these 5 functions, right? So it kind of specifies. So this is kind of how, back in the day, you had to do this for building, even like, Microsoft Word was kind of the hard example, but even if you're building a calculator, right? So imagine you're building a calculator, right? Every single one of these buttons is basically an object, right? And then you group some of these objects and say, okay, plus, minus, multiply, divide. I'm gonna call that into like some. So you have like a button, and then again you have it kind of branch out to different types of buttons and different functionalities, and then you create an interface, and then again, you can create an interface that says, hey, any buttons that follow this interface, right? You got to have these 5 functions and blah, blah, blah. So in order to even create a view of this, you're thinking creating bunch of classes, right? And again, abstract class was important because the abstract class, you didn't want people to create an object directly. It's just supposed to be like a blueprint for the children, right? So you create an abstract class, and then you have to create an interface kind of outlining, how some of these things should, behave. So to create something like this, good luck. I mean, you probably spend weeks. And you will have different opinions, right? Because one developer is going to be like, no, we need to create a thing called a thing. And then a thing can be a button and then blah, blah, blah. Some of you may be like, why are we even creating a button in the first place? Let's name it blah, blah, blah. So you can imagine just sheer, we haven't even implemented any functionality, like, the data storage or anything, right? But to render this view, just the objects that we had to create were enormous, right? If you have done iOS development in Java, you will see how abstract classes, interfaces come into play. C# and Java, being the language where you have to build desktop application, you can see that there is an abstract class and interfaces, right? All because back in the day when you're building on desktop application, that's exactly what you had to do. It's super, super complex. Now, when web application came in, if I say create a calculator, are you going to be like, Michael, that's going to take me 1 week because I need to create maybe 100 classes to create this HTML? I'll be like, no, I'm not going to give you a week. You got 1 hour, go. And you're going to do it in 1 hour, right? It seems really simple, right? If you look at it, I think that fact is why OP design patterns is not as important as it used to be, because in web, when you create this, you don't need hundreds of classes, OP classes. You can add CSS classes, right? But it really dramatically simplified how fast you can create application, didn't it? I mean, back in the desktop, yeah, I would say, guys, we, gather everyone. We need to come up with a good, hierarchy of how we're gonna, lay out the classes for this. So let's have a meeting and let's identify the top 100 classes we need to create for this calculator. So we're gonna do it in 1 week, 10 of us. Let's hustle. Let's, study all these, OP design patterns and do it so that we can create this in an elegant way that is also extensible for future features. I mean, if you're doing that for a web application, it's a joke, right? You got 10 engineers, brainstorming and thinking how they're going to create a view for this freaking calculator. Are you kidding me? Right? So that's interesting, isn't it? Also, when you did a desktop application, right, a lot of it, a lot of databases back then weren't really available, right? You had to basically create each of these, and if it needed to store data, you need to create, methods to store the data, and then to, blah blah, pass it from one thing to the next. So it rarely sent this information to a database and saved it there, right? Because there was no web, right? How could you actually send your request and, have it stored on the web? You couldn't, right? So you had to store it all on your local computer. Do you construct your own database? Well, that's kind of what they had to do using OP. So now, back in the desktop application, it's like, okay, we don't have a database, so we're gonna have to go on database. So let's use classes again, and kind of to do all of these, things to create to store all the data. And then when if the application crashes, then okay, what do? We need to have some recovery process, and so forth. Super, super messy, right? So when the web technologies got introduced, no longer do you have to spend weeks to create the rendering because it's so simple. And not only that, you don't need to have bunch of methods to, bunch of getters and setters. Remember, if you did Java, you study getters and setters. That's back in the desktop application world. I mean, who uses a lot of getter setters now? You just send it to the database, right? To a remote database and have it stored there. But back 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. So you have to, again, study all these design patterns. Okay, we're going to have 200 classes now to store all this information. What's the best way to do it? Oh, apply solid principle. Go in and, make it so that it's, open for extension but closed for modification. Right? Blah, 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 blah. Super, super important, right? So again, if you're getting interviewed by people who are back in those days who were building desktop application, they're going to think, abstract classes are really important, interfaces are really important, solid principles are really important. I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying that I don't think it's as important as it used to be 25 years ago. But people who might interview you, who are now kind of higher up, may be the ones to do that. Right? They're familiar with it, so they may ask you some questions. Okay? Okay, let me stop there. Put in some comments. Now let me check the comments and see kind of where things are. Okay. Okay, let's see. Normalization, maybe. Yeah, I have to look up that term. I'm pretty bad on words, so I think I will cover it, but if not, send me an email, Nikandra, or you and I can talk. Okay, so let's see. Who would provide live help though? Would there be? Nah, it's basically the live help would be just community members. So if no one's available, you don't get help. You just ask your Facebook friends. I'm not gonna have my staff be there on 24/7 support. It's just community members helping each other. But idea is if you have a lot of community members, there might be someone there who can help you when you get stuck with issues. So let's see if you're reviewing. Yeah, that's right. Is OOP slow? OOP does have more overhead. Right? It's not slow, um, but it does have a little. The way you consider OOP is just like organizing folders, right? So if everyone's creating folders in their own way, it could be a messy situation. So there are all these design patterns. They say, okay, we're gonna create a folder if so and so and so, right? That's what design patterns are. Okay, and I see in the Conjure you're answering some community members' question. I love that. Thank you so much. Did everyone write assembler 30 years ago? I did a little bit. But back even 30 years ago, people could write things in C, C++. Yeah, assembly is super cool, but I don't think anyone writes it. But assembly is super fast. I remember creating a game, and when I did it in quick pacing, my character was like crawling. And to update this view took like 2 seconds for the character to move from one frame to the next. It was annoying. And then I did C++ and the character was like running. It was really cool, very smooth. And then I did assembly and the characters just go shoo. Like each from quick basic to C++, 10 times improvement, C++ to assembly, 10 times improvement. Because you can imagine the image rendering function in C++ is overloaded with a lot of things you don't need. But if you write in assembly, you can just do exactly what you need. And super, super cool. Okay, let me see if there are any other comments. Pascal, Fortran, yeah, I know both of them. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Is it not ideal for okay, it doesn't have much to do with work. Okay, okay, good. Okay, so I think this is good, but I think that perspective is really, really important, right? Because without that, you might be like, oh, I really need to study these design patterns and really understand how to create. Come on, if you look at and then you look at the trend again. The trend is going into microservices, going into making smaller, app that does one specific thing really well. So then I'm not gonna have that many features in my microservice. So if I'm not gonna have that many features, how many folders do I need to organize my features? A lot less than it used to be. But imagine back 30 years ago, you had to build Microsoft Word from scratch. Right? That's one monolithic giant application. Of course, you would have like 100,000 features. So then you really needed a good rule on how to organize those features into folders. Therefore, why design patterns used to be popular. No longer people are wanting to create a giant monolithic application. It's proven that doesn't work, right? There is a reason why Microsoft, okay, I gotta be careful, keeps back in the day, right? They would say, we're going to release something on this date, and it never happens because when you're building a one monolithic application, it's a mess. You need to have all these design patterns, but who really studies these design patterns? Some people are bound to not know and make some mistakes and screw everything else, right? And that's exactly kind of what happened with, these giant, applications. So again, put things into perspective when you're thinking about, okay, well, I need to study all these design patterns. Don't get too overwhelmed, guys. The trend is going into smaller apps, microservices, containerization, right? If you're going to have 10, 20 features, who cares if you put that into a single controller? No one's going to come at you and say you needed 2 controllers. Why are you not following solid principles and putting that into a single controller, right? Why you should have put it in 2 or 3 to organize 10 features? Come on, give me a break, right? So anyway, gotta have that perspective. And so don't judge yourself too harshly if you don't understand some of these design patterns, because again, you're not a dude that lives 30 years ago who had to build this monolithic desktop application and who had to even understand how to create 100 classes to create a view, and it would take weeks. You're not in that world, right? Is it no wonder that if you look at Java and C#, which was kind of the dominant language for building desktop application, there's a reason why open source community doesn't like them. It's old school, right? Those are used for these desktop. So now it's like, why do we even need all of that layer on top when there's HTML and CSS and when there is a database and now there are all these services in the cloud that basically do all these things? So I don't have to write 100,000 features for the app. I can actually write 10 and leverage all these other services and then maybe create another one, microservice with 10 features and connect them using Docker, right? I don't actually have to create Docker. I can just leverage it, right? So you can see why there's a reason why C# is, the C# community is working really hard so that open source community would adopt them. But they just come from a different world. They do these, right? The engineers who build applications in C# are used to doing that. Memory management, right? All of these things, solid principle, all of that, interfaces. Who uses interface now? So if you look at some of the modern languages such as Python, JavaScript, PHP, and others, do they have abstract classes? Yeah, some of them do, but do you really need it? No. Do they have interfaces? Yeah, you can make it, but then it's not as strongly enforced as Java and C#. Right? There is a reason why developer community likes these languages and they don't really like these language. Someone made a joke that if they say, if your boss tells you need to build the application in Java, look for a better work environment. There is some truth to that, right? Old school people, right? They will ask you probably a lot of data structure, like heavy questions, and a lot of questions about some of the solid principles or OOP guidelines, because that's what they had to do when they were early in their career. I'm not saying that solid principle or the other OOP design patterns are not helpful. Right? I'm not saying that. I never said it's not important. I'm saying it's not. In my opinion, I don't think it is as important as it used to be 20, 30 years ago. Exactly because of the web, right? HTML and CSS, JavaScript, isn't it beautiful that you can actually pick that up in a week and learn how to create anything? It's super, super amazing. Isn't it amazing that you can actually learn how to write SQL queries? You guys learned it in a day or two. And now you don't need to create getters and setters for every single class that you're going to create on your UI on your desktop application. You don't have to worry about any of that crap. And in fact, with the movement of the ORM and active record, right, every single database table is automatically going to be a class. So it's done. So like the OOP for the model is done. You don't really need OOP for the views because it's HTML and CSS. So the only OOP you really need, really mainly, is to manage controllers. But how many controllers are you going to have now in a web application, especially with a microservice? Maybe one, maybe three. Okay, so do you need design patterns to organize 3 controllers? Probably not, right? That's my personal opinion. Why? Study it for interview, just like you're studying data structures. All the data structure, I think, it builds some good discipline. But just have that perspective, okay? And don't be too harsh on yourself. If you're like, oh, I never learned any of this, and I study all this, and it's not making sense. It doesn't make sense to me either. I read it, I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? This makes no sense, right? So I keep reading 20 articles, and I finally find one that is like, somewhat digestible, and I get frustrated. Then why did I waste my time reading these 19 articles where I'm not stupid. I don't think I'm stupid, but it doesn't make sense to me either, right? So anyway, just have that perspective, and with that, let's go on. Okay. Okay. So why don't we do this? Okay. Now with this context, right? You're gonna go and do a system design for the Learn platform. If nothing else today, why don't we get started on the database design? So as promised, I'm going to show you how the Learn platform works. This is the Learn platform that you guys are familiar, but this is basically a clone of that. Data Compass is my new company, right? But those who don't know, their tracks contain multiple courses. These are courses. A course has multiple chapters. So let me find one that has a chapter. right? So chapter 1, CSS, CSS3. Okay, now there's only one chapter here. Now there's only one chapter too. Let me find something that has more than one chapter. Okay, let's see, PHP. Okay, so see, chapter 1, PHP fundamentals. And then chapter 2, PHP advanced. Chapter 3, PHP with MySQL. Okay, so the track has multiple courses. A course has multiple chapters. A chapter has multiple modules. A module could be a text module, right, where I can add video. It can be an assignment module where I can check off list of items that I've completed, upload files, and there can be a quiz module. Okay. Also, back to tracks. I mean, there are a lot more functionalities to this. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the admin view, but this gets really, really complex very quickly. But let's not design a very complex version. But you can imagine I can add students directly to the track. I can also add other instructors to the track. And if you're an instructor for that track, then you can edit the course. Okay, so that's the summary. What you need to do is you're going to create a database schema. Okay, why are we doing this? Again, as we talked about, when it comes to system design, right, we don't have to talk about OOP and how to structure that for the HTML and CSS. That's a joke, right? We don't really need to talk about the controller that much because you're not going to have that many controllers. So the database kind of becomes the bottleneck. And how you design the database becomes extremely critical for web application. Following, my other steps, you can find out, oh, is that going to be one microservice, two microservices, three, let's use Git flow, GitHub flow, oh, S3. All of that is easy. But knowing how to design a database properly, I think is a skill that's very important. So why don't we use this time in the live class for you to practice creating a database schema for the Learn platform, and I will look at the database schema and give you direct feedback. Okay, so let's do that. So what you can do is you can use Excel, or you can go ahead and download MySQL Workbench. I actually did this today. I was creating a test for my business, Data Compass, and I used an ERD I used this to create a database schema. So you can do that too. Okay, so again, I'll write down in the comments what you need to do. So remember that users can log in. User can be added as students to a track, or be added as an instructor to a track. A track has many courses. A course has many chapters. A chapter has many modules. A module can be either text module, assignment module with to-dos, and quiz module with multiple choice questions. Place to okay, very, very simple database. Yeah, I mean, they're probably 100 times the feature as what I outlined here. Go ahead and create a database schema. I'm gonna give you guys 20 minutes. Do it in Excel, or do it in a Google spreadsheet, right? Because then once you're done, you can just send me a link in the comments so we can take a look at it. If you want to do the ERD approach using MySQL Workbench, that would be cool. So if you have that still, go ahead and do it. Okay. So everyone, does anyone have questions of what you're expected to do? Send me a comment here. We're going to spend 20 minutes to do database design. Okay, I don't think anyone has questions. No questions? I guess you guys are busy at work. Okay, create a database schema. Let's do that and then talk. Okay, so I'll give you guys 20 minutes again. I'll be back in 20 minutes, okay? So 7:35 my time is when I'll come back up. Good luck.
It's time for a bubble cutting! Let's go! Papa was in a class. Oh. What are you doing? Did you go up here? No. No. No.
All right, I'm back. Did my kids come in? All right. I'll have to look at the video later and then edit. Okay, that's okay if you missed it. Yeah, James. You have a question, James? Microservice. All right. I think you guys still have 10 minutes, right? Is it coming along okay? I mean, just do the best that you can. I don't know if 20 minutes is enough, but let's just talk about that a little bit. Yeah, I guess I have a lot of things to that I wanted to share and things. It's hard to squeeze a lot into an hour, but I don't like to go for more than an hour. So, thank you. Yeah, I had no idea. They're getting scolded by my wife now. Thank you, Samya. You know, it's really interesting because the ORM really kind of made a big impact even in database design. Because if you're doing things in ORM, I basically kind of gave you the answer, like half of the answer, right? Yeah, I'll make sure they're not too scolded. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I used to be so stressed when in the middle of a video, my kids walk in or someone opens the door and says, like something, and I'm like, oh man, that 40 minutes of video, now I have to like redo all of that over again. But now, I try not to stress too much about it. It's okay. You know, it's just too many things that's outside my control. Just gotta enjoy it. Okay, how is it going, guys? Do you guys need a little bit more time? Should we just kind of openly talk about it? Give me some feedback. Because if you're like, Michael, this is too easy, we know how to do all of these, then we can just skip and maybe go more focus on system design, kind of maybe how we would design the microservices, because that could be an interesting topic too. I mean, there are a lot of different ways we can go about. Makes virtual class. Yeah, I just have to look and see, where they. Yeah, we just get sensitive, with the internet these days. Um, you never know, and kids can be targets, so we're just a little bit sensitive on that one. Yeah, my wife especially. Yeah, but I appreciate you guys, having a good time. Yeah, they're cute. They're a handful. It was my third one and the fourth one who walked in. Yeah. You will never say it, Andrew, huh? You can say it. Okay. Why don't we how to navigate the relationship between all items? Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if this can be done in 20 minutes. Like if you were in my team, and you're one of my engineers, I would say um, you put a lot of thoughts, create a database design, don't present it to me yet. Look at it at least 5 times over and over again to see if it captured everything. And then on your sixth attempt, if you can't find anything else to improve, then present it to me and let's walk through. So because you think you're done and then you're like, for example, right, let me give you this, right? So you have some ideas on this. Imagine this. Okay, so how many tables would you need for the quiz module? Think about that. How many database tables do you need for the quiz module? Do you just need one quiz module table to store the quiz information? Do you need two database tables for the quiz? Three? Four? Five? Think about it. Why don't you actually give me your idea? Does instructor get assigned students? No, they just get assigned to the course. Yeah. So instructors, yeah, don't get assigned to student. The instructor basically just have edit access to the course. That's one way to think about it. Yeah, but yeah, you're true, Samia. I mean, you can think about the dojo, right? And an instructor needs to also be assigned to a cohort. But let's not worry about that extension. Let's just think that instructors right now just are given edit access. Trying to answer who needs to have access to the parent and the child. When you say parent and the child, Conjure, what do you mean? Initially, I was thinking you were talking about me and my kids, because I'm a parent and you saw my kids, but I don't think that's what you're talking about, right? Okay. Well, I guess 20 minutes is already kind of up there. You got 2, 3 more minutes. Why don't you put whatever you can in an Excel spreadsheet or ERD, and then put it somewhere where I can access and be brave. Just send it over live chat. Let's take a look at it. It's okay. I know if you had many iterations, you will know how to make it better and better. But let's just take a first crack at it and have some discussion. Okay. Ah, that's what you mean. The parent and the child. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Ah, good question, Isaiah. That's what you have to decide. Mm, yeah. Let's say that I give you a constraint, and usually, if you're gonna store in one database, you just want to store in that database. You don't want to kind of store some information in a relational, some in like a non-relational. It makes it very messy. It's just better to just stick with one and go with it. What's really interesting though is I find that creating a database table is I use the same part of my brain as when I do OOP. Um, it's an interesting observation. Like when I'm thinking, okay, how do I want to create these classes? What are the subclasses? Do I want to, what are the methods and the attributes? Do I want to make this an abstract class? Is this going to be a singleton, where I only have one instance? Blah, blah, blah. I actually asked almost the identical thing. I just tap into the same brain when I do database tables. I have to think about all these cases and then come up with the tables and almost feels like an OOP way, like kind of the extension. And I guess the parent-child relationship, right, too. In OOP, right, there's a parent class and the children class and then blah blah blah. You can almost see the same behavior when you do database design. It's really really cool. So I think who if you're good in database design, I think you will be good in OOP. And if you're good in OOP, you can be good at database design too. So doing one really helps you do well in the other too. I really think so. There's a really good relationship, and you just have to practice. For the quizzes, you guys remember taking some quizzes, right? So there has to be a quiz description, right? They begin, and then let's just imagine it's all multiple choice, so it has to have a question. It needs to have, the four choices. You need to indicate which one is the right answer. You also need to store what the student picked because I need I can go in and see your quiz results too. Yeah, so probably yeah. Okay, so go in and if you did it in Excel spreadsheet or Google spreadsheet, go in and share the link. Let me just close my window really quick. Someone is mowing the lawn. And like if you're gonna store some JSON stuff, you don't have to store JSON just in a non-relational database. You could store JSON as a text in a relational database too, right? Retrieve it as a string, parse it to a JSON. So that's kind of the trick that you can use to use relational database to store a JSON object. You can do that too. Yeah. Or you can go truly relational, right, and create multiple tables too. There are many options there too. Yeah, screen capture and crop is fine. You can like put it on. I mean, there are probably a few different ways. You can put it in your Google Drive and make it publicly accessible, and then put in a link. Let's just do some. Let's yeah. I like that idea. Yeah, they can export an image too. Yeah, let's do some of this again. This I don't expect a perfect ERD diagram in 20 minutes, just to kind of get our brain rolling on this. Because from my experience, I would say that the biggest bottleneck, right? You can learn how to design microservices, all of these things. Just follow my diagram. If you follow my diagram, I think you will be in a safe place. But knowing how to do a database design, if you get this wrong, man, your life will be a nightmare. Any single change in a database propagates so many cascading effect down the code that you don't want to mess up the database design. You really want to get it right. Super expensive to fix it later on, especially if you have to support multiple versions and you also have to have multiple versions of the database. It could be a nightmare, right? So I think that's why database design is it's just such an integral part of system design. All right, let's start seeing some answers. I'm starting to have some headaches. I'm gonna eat some snack. We just bought this at a Korean store. Um, Probably just a bunch of sugar. I think I need some sugar. Yeah, I'm starting to have some headache. I don't know if it's because I'm lacking some sugar for my brain. Okay, go ahead and share. Let's take a look at some. Okay. Oh, did you post it on Hacker Hero? Let me check Hacker Hero. Yeah, I forget that you guys could submit it there. So let's see. Oh, I don't actually have the Learn platform. That I haven't made that. I haven't activated it yet. So, um, where did you guys export it to? Okay. Did anyone upload? I don't see anything. Okay. Yeah, give me some comments. Should I wait a little bit more? Should we just dive a little bit in? It's past an hour and 10 minutes. It's time that we should wrap up too. Okay. If you're uploading, go ahead and upload. Why don't we? Why don't I talk about how I would design something like this, right? So I probably let me write this a little bit smaller. I would probably need a users table, right? With ID, name, email, password, created at, updated at. Oh, you need to see a bigger screen. Updated at a user, okay, and then I would have tracks with ID and name. One track has multiple courses. This would have ID, name, and some other things. A course has many chapters, ID, name, right? And it would have the course ID. Can a course belong to multiple tracks? It would, right? So you can imagine I can have like a GitHub course that shows up in one track that also shows up in another track, right? So I need another table. So this is a many-to-many relationship. So one course can appear in many tracks, or actually, hold on. One course can appear in many tracks. Yeah, okay. Maybe it's not a many-to-many. Okay, my brain is hurting. Okay, just excuse me. So I think this is one to a course can appear in many tracks, but a track has many courses. Yeah, that is right. Okay, my brain is hurting. Okay, so it is right, I think. It needs to be another table that does the many-to-many relationship, right? Because you cannot join two tables with many-to-many. You need a third table. And then a chapter has many modules. And then there would be a ID and a type. And then I would probably type ID, and then I probably need a module, type ID, module types that has ID and name, right? This would indicate whether it's like an assignment module, video module, and blah, 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 right? Let's look at the assignment module. So assignment module, I would need a description, right? And then where do people submit their assignments? I need to store that, right? So I need to have assignments submitted. This needs to have an ID, user ID of the person who uploaded the assignment, URL ID to the S3 bucket that I'm storing it, created at, updated at. And I would also need to store the module ID, right? So maybe this is another module ID here. So a module can have multiple assignments submitted. So I'll kind of, maybe link it over here. All right, let's look at the quiz module. So this gets a little bit complex. Quiz module would have a ID, description, and this is where you can get interesting. Notice that it does need to store the questions. But think about this. Imagine I have a quiz. So I uploaded initially with 5 questions, and you guys take the quiz. And then I add another question. Then the students after that are going to get 6 questions. But when I look at your report, would I want to see that? But back then, you guys only had 5 questions available, right? So, okay, let's think through that a little bit. Maybe I'm thinking of one step further. So the quiz module, not only I need ID and description, I also need the questions, right? So imagine that there are a few ways to do it. If you want to do purely relational, you would have the questions table. If you don't want to do that, right, you kind of want to blend in some of the non-relational, store that as a text and store JSON. Store questions as JSON, right? Where the multiple choices would be part of that JSON object, right? So this is kind of the trick. But if you're like, Michael, I don't like that trick, I want to do everything really relational, then go ahead and create the questions where it has the question ID and the text. And then you can say a question can have many answers, right? As ID, the text, and we need to indicate if the answer is correct. So set a boolean to see if that answer is correct. So you can either do this, or you can say, let me just do that. But when the students take the quiz, you need to store how the students answered them, right? So then you also need student answers for quiz. And here you need the ID, you need the quiz ID, user ID, and then I want to see when you took the test what the questions were and what you got, right? So you can have results. That could be a text, and where I store again the JSON of exact quiz questions that you got, exact choice that you picked. So I can just look at this one field and retrieve it and display it. Okay, yeah, I'm going a lot of places and I might be missing something. Okay, I need students, right? Students are just users who have access to that track, right? So if I think about it, users can have many tracks. A track can have many users. Many is a many-to-many relationship where that middle table just happens to be students. Similarly, instructors is another many-to-many where users have many tracks have many users, but they just have special privilege. So that many-to-many relationship, that another table that got created, one is for the students, one's for the instructor. So that's kind of at a high level. How many database tables do they have? Maybe we didn't even do the assignments. So these are the assignments submitted, assignment module. Okay, we did that. We need a text module, or I can say, there's a text description in the module itself. So I can kind of bring in some of the common elements from the subtypes to the parent type so that I don't repeat. But that's kind of in a nutshell how I can create a Learn platform. Was that kind of similar to what you guys did? Users wouldn't. Because remember, a user can be a student or an instructor. There is depending on the track. So it's not like if you're a student always. You may be a student for some tracks and an instructor for another class. That's why the user type shouldn't be in the users table, right? It needs to be a separate table there. Yeah, JSON in a text field, right? This is kind of a trick. And I love using tricks like that. It's like, oh, you're going to store a JSON file, so you need to go non-relational? No, you don't. You can just store that as a JSON file. Just store that as text. Retrieve it as text. Parse it as JSON. Now use it as an object. Super easy. So I'm leveraging the power of JSON and I'm storing that in a relational database. Super neat trick, right? I'm glad that you like that trick. Yeah, JSON is text fill. You just convert it. JSON is just text, isn't it? And you can take that text and convert it to an object. Yeah, it's kind of confusing. If you look at the database diagram, I probably have 30 to 50 database tables. But isn't it interesting? This exercise, it is very similar to how I would create classes, right? Anything that's one-to-many, I'm creating like, different types, right? Modules, for example, in this one, I never actually want people to create an instance of it. So you can think of this as an abstract class, right? And then, when I'm doing these, I'm basically creating attributes for my children classes. It is using almost the same part of the OOP exercise. It's really neat. Let's see. Okay, we're good. That's good. Yeah, yes. Pulling information from folders that's not using the database. Database has become so good that it's a lot. It's really fast. I mean, uh, even our platform with all the courses, I would think it's probably less than 100 megabytes. 100 megabytes. And it does things very, very quickly. Um, yeah. Okay, sounds good. So yeah, storing JSON as a field is clever. Right? I don't know if that's been taught. It's just my trick. One of my trick, and it makes it easy. Why create all these different tables if you know you're gonna do a join statement anyway? If you're gonna do a join statement all the time when you're looking up that field, why don't you just store it as JSON? Right? Store it directly there. So you don't have to do all these, join statements. And all the join statements, you guys know that can cause a lot of inefficiencies. So why do it? Just put it as a JSON field, right? Database table is simple. You don't have to do all these joins, right? The table does get a little bit bigger, but who cares? It's not going to be that big, right? And you get the benefit of non-relational in your relational database. Yeah, yeah. Paper. Some people do it better in paper. I don't know what I like doing more. I think I like the SQL workbench, but my engineering lead likes to do it in Excel. Um, yeah, and my writing is okay, but I mean, like this is a mess, right? And what if I want to shift some of the things? I mean, it becomes a little bit hard. So Excel's a good way. MySQL Workbench is a good way to do it as well. Okay, so we already went over quite a bit. I appreciate you guys, being here with me. I hope you got something cool out of this. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about system design, but we'll talk about OOP patterns, design patterns a little bit. Honestly, I have to go and study them, um, and so I'll do some studying and share some of the things I learned. I'll also share some of the good articles I found, so you can do more reading on that. But if you do have suggestions on, because tomorrow's the final live class, so if you have some topics that you really want me to talk about, please let me know either in the chat box now so I can put some thoughts tonight and tomorrow to prepare, or just send me an email or send me a message on Facebook. Okay, so it was good to have you guys. Thanks for being patient with me. Thanks for being kids friendly when my kids walked in. I appreciate it. So I'll talk to you guys later. I'll stay for a few more minutes in case you have some questions that you want to ask. Okay? All right. Bye bye. Thank you. All right. Thanks for the comment, James. Yep. Smarter now. Awesome. Okay. If you guys have any questions, let me know. You're welcome. Science of life. Yeah, you're welcome, Howard. That boy was Howard. The boy that walked in. That's my son. Yeah, you're welcome, Tinyo. Conjuro, thank you. It's always good to have you. Jocelyn, thank you. Ellie, thank you too. Yeah, it's fun interacting with you guys. I love it. We're good, thank you. Yeah. I did miss teaching. I really like interacting with students. I miss that part. Yeah, well, that's good. You're getting smarter and smarter. Appreciate it. Awesome, Angel. Yeah, yeah. So that's sometimes the challenge, right? People love to be given tutorials. I hate tutorials. I always felt that the key thing is provide some data points, but have students connect the dots. Never connect the dots for the students. Otherwise, they become typists, right? They need to learn how to connect 2 dots, 3 dots, 5 dots, 10 dots, 20 dots. So, I think a good curriculum is basically just showing the dots, but never connecting them in pieces. But having the students do that because that's their fun of connecting the dots. I don't even know what PWA is. I'm gonna Google it. What is PWA? Progressive Web Apps. What is that? Progressive Web Application, a type of application delivered through the web, built using. Uh, isn't that all web app? Type using common technologies, intend to work on any platform that uses standard compliant browsers. Okay, I'm confused. What? Do not require separate bundling or distribution. Yeah, I don't know what PWA is. Programmers with attitude. Yeah, well, I do know some of those programmers, but most programmers are good people. Instagram is a PWA app. Okay. Is a progressive web app? Okay, yeah, again, I don't know what that is. Is it basically like all apps that are built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? So like React Native, where you build things in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but it translates to a native app, things like that. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Probably I'm the wrong person to ask about opinions about PWA because I'll be like, what is that? Right? Okay. Yeah, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can be really powerful. It could be really powerful. And just like the earlier example, back in the day, I mean, even when you do iOS application, you will see this, right? Designing the front view, it's a little bit easier because you can do a lot of drag and dropping, but you still have to connect the pieces and you have to add interfaces and then, implement the interfaces. It's a lot more work. You can see why people are gravitating toward building web applications and having that work on, desktop and then other things. But yeah, but again, I'm the wrong person to ask about PWA. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you, Angel. Appreciate it. Okay, well, we'll log off. You guys have a good day. Okay, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay? All right. Bye for now.